Of all, welcome all, and wishing you all a happy and prosperous 72nd Republic Day. So, Snehanshu, I'm here to welcome you. And Snehanshu, can I see you?
Hi.
Hi, yes, Snehanshu. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, regrets for kept you waiting for 5 minutes, and happy to have you exactly at the time when Indian national flag is getting hoisted at Rajpath in Delhi by our Honorable President Ramnath Kovind. Just now, within 1 or 2 seconds, flag he hoisted at 10:05. So once again, wishing all a happy and prosperous Republic Day, and good to have all of you here. First of all, let me introduce to all of you Mr. Snehanshu. He's the man with the multiple, the background and vast experience. So, he's the alumnus of IMCoE Code. So that is the institute that everybody wish to study if at all we are there from. The management degree, and then along with that, even he had his one more management degree from IFIM. Formerly, now it is Jagdish State School of Management, and he was working with Vodafone India as head of data and analytics, and presently he is a CEO Center of Excellence at NASSCOM. So, Snehanshu, really happy and really overwhelmed to introduce you to the entire student community and parent community. So really welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me, having me here. Very excited to be with all of you. And yes, I'd like to wish everybody a happy 72nd Republic Day too. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. So here, Snehanshu, when we were looking for this kind of interaction for all the student and parent community, including us, AI and data science, which is a combination. So, the first and foremost question comes in all the parent and students' mind. That means the first thing that comes in mind is how AI and data science are relevant to school and junior college. Here, like in Telangana and Andhra, in this part of India, junior college means class 11th and class 12th. So, how is it actually relevant at this age?
I think I'll try and take a step back here. First of all, a disclaimer, I definitely don't consider myself to be somebody who knows a lot about AI. It's a field that I work in, and I continue to be a student of this domain. So I may not necessarily give you a lot of breaking news, but hoping to leave a few insights with the audience that you can use. So that being said, I think where I'd like to probably start is it is relevant. It is relevant, and the whole race that we see that is fueling this drive towards artificial intelligence and making people curious is driven by a set of factors. But before that, there is no denying, Isran, the fact that AI is probably one of the most significant technological waves of our lifetime. When it started in the Industrial Revolution era, and we have seen so many different technological waves, what we are coming to see is something so significant, so pervasive, that it will and it is already touching a lot of our lives, right? Regardless of our social or educational background, it is already around us, with us. Its importance is only likely to grow. So now coming back to the set of factors that I thought, or I think is driving the race towards artificial intelligence. One is the whole digital world that we are stepping into, that we have stepped into. And this whole change is all around us. There is no other option than you and I are having this conference right now, conversation right now, a bunch of curious, parents, teachers, people from the academic fraternity joining in. What more proof do you need that, on a Republic Day, just after the flag has been hoisted, we are having a seamless conversation, right? And this is just the reality that we have stepped into and embraced. So that is one of the factors that I feel is contributing. The second is this whole fear psychosis, of the fear of missing out, as I call it, that you can no longer afford to have your kid be a stranger to this new world, right? It's a technology seeped area. One needs to know the ways of working. That is extremely important. And being an Indian parent, the fear psychosis only multiplies, right? So the second reason that is fueling this drive towards artificial intelligence is this whole fear of missing out. And the third is a very, very important and strategic one, in my opinion. And we have heard about this. We've heard about this in that there is a huge demand-supply gap that we are looking into. There is a certain gap that we are already talking about, and without the right steps being taken, the talent supply is only going to, talent gap is only going to grow wider. And we have a responsibility towards our country, towards this profession, to ensure that the supply of talent is continuous, right? And hence, you see a lot of people wanting to do something to develop the right kind of capabilities and then catch them early. But that is just the introduction. I think, is it relevant? I think given these three factors, I feel it is extremely important. Data science and artificial intelligence are extremely important. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's not the only profession of the future. But with all available indications, it's something that is all set to become bigger and more, assume more significance and meaning in our lives, right? Both personal as well as professional.
Here, like, Snehanshu, I understand, like, three really, like, valid point you have put on, like, one is AI as a need, and second is the fear psychosis that it is going around that, like, I'll be missing out the bus. And third point is like the demand and supply gap. See, I still remember, maybe like if we have some the common age people in this group, even the parent are there, they can understand. When like I was a kid, like for me, like the Cadbury's was a chocolate for the kids. And then slowly that ad started coming up, Kuch Khas Hai Zindagi Mein, where the girl is actually jumping in the cricket field, and the placement of the product right from the kid has gone to the adult. So today's generation, what is there with us? So they feel that the chocolate can be eaten by anyone, but I have seen a time where the chocolate should have been eaten only by the kids. It is not for the like the adult people. Now, like the exact reverse is happening in AI. So, like in AI or coding, in fact, if I say, which is like now the top thing that is going on, it is like it was there for the adult. Then slowly, the hype is created along the kid, right from like maybe age of 5 or age of 6 or age of 7. So what, so like here, because you are there in that particular industry, can you please put a light on that with so much hype around like the coding, what actually children and parents should focus on? Just somebody is telling where to jump in? Or actually there is any point where they should focus on that, ye parameter hai, then definitely we should do that.
Okay, let me start off by saying that coding is just one of the many things one would need to understand, internalize, master over a period of time to become an AI engineer, if that is a long-term goal. But again, let me sort of create a little bit of a background to my answer, right? So first of all, world over, there's a shift in curriculum to prepare for this advances of technology that we are talking about in recent times. Please note that this is not an India phenomenon, right? That's one. Countries that we are seeing typically take a lead in artificial intelligence are doing something very actively. Now, in China, it starts at grade 4, right? US schools, they have a very well-defined framework under their own guidelines. Canada and UK also, there are various programs for artificial intelligence in schools that we are seeing, right? In India, we have CBSE that has developed a curriculum to create a foundation for AI education, which starts between class 8th and 12th, right? And we've also defined an overall education philosophy, so to say, right? Created a curriculum framework for AI in education. And then you also have what you call the adult tinkering labs, which are aligned to the framework, to the philosophy. Now, why are we doing this? Essentially, the idea is to help you develop a foundation to stimulate your interest as such, among students, that you develop your skill set in a fairly structured manner. Now, I think with that being said, it is important to understand that not everybody is cut out for programming. And the idea is not so much to manufacture clones, right? We will need to nurture their specific interests. That is very, very important. Now, the second thing that I would probably emphasize upon, Iswaran, is let us introduce kids, if we need to this whole fantastic world of coding for the right reasons. What are the right reasons? What are the wrong reasons? I think the immediate reason should not be to have them aligned to their future job requirements. We don't even know what those future job requirements are, and you're catching them early. And we should not try and get into this bandwagon because everybody else will be using technology in the future. And we know, classmates of our kids that are already getting started on coding, and hence the whole fear psychosis of fear of missing out. That should not be a fundamental reason. I look at it as an opportunity, right? In my world, coding has emerged as a form of mathematics. How do you use that as a mean to teach your child to solve problems? Essentially, if you talk to any programmer, you will learn that it involves a fair amount of problem solving. And that's just such an empowering aspect of that learning process. So the question is, are you looking at coding, for example, as an interesting way of teaching kids to problem solve, and probably even look at it as an extension of mathematics? So I think those are the responsibilities that I would want to call out as far as principals, teachers, or even parents are concerned.
I understand. That was like a very good, because like when you are talking about for a long-sightedness, that means we should not see only like what is going to happen now. Coding should not be taken only for career. I think all the parent and students and other members are actually listening to this. This is in between the lines. Snehanshu has underlined it, that like coding is a way of learning things. Maybe like it is either like mathematics or it is some other logical where you put on to increase the lateral thinking level. So because that answers like the one more question, but like here one like small thought I always had, like being from the industry, from the education industry for the last 2 decades, that there was a hype created around 2 decades back about the call center, where like India was maybe probably now also is the biggest call center market. Second is then there was something called medical transcription. I think the parent can really relate to it, MT. And now the third wave for me, and then even IT was there. When I was in school and college, IT being actually getting a job in Infi was like big. You were like, wow, you are getting. But like now, every 15 years, or in fact 5 or 6 years now in this time, the jobs are changing. So is it like the coding hype is only created to make one more like the labor market in India, so that we get cheap coder after 10-15 years? So that was there in my mind, which you beautifully answered, that coding should not be taken for a job. Let us see what the kid is doing. At the later stage, we can actually understand whether he wants it to be as a part and parcel of his or her curriculum. It's like the lateral thinking part. Now, like here, one more question, like, is it like very short to think that, like, are we like thinking very short that if like we put the kids in coding, then kids like the career is fine, or what all the other careers you feel that along with the coding they can actually take in the tender age? I'm talking about the toddlers, class 2nd, class 3rd, class 4th, when they have been taught coding. So what other aspects of brain will be working so that, because you are there in deep. So that 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, when they are exposed to coding, basics of coding. So what do you feel that, what kind of career path they can take? I'm not saying particular career, thinking of brain, what all the other parts of the brain will get open?
The whole world is open to them. And I do not necessarily see a cause and effect relationship between their ability to learn and code and their being successful, in their professional careers later on. The point that I'm emphasizing, Ishwaran, is that we need to disassociate coding from an eventual profession that they would land in. It just creates a certain level of expectations. It probably is a little insensitive to their natural self. They might be very good in certain areas, but we are pushing them to pick up a skill or a discipline that they probably will acquire, but it will come at a certain stress level. So I think when I talk about creating an environment of learning in artificial intelligence, is not so much in trying to look at it as a career profession, as a career option, later on. It is something that is towards understanding what the future of a society will look like, right? And then probably start creating or building a skill set so that if one wants to align at a future date, one already has the base level skills to build on. I think that is all the expectation that I would honestly have.
Yeah, it is like, Snehanshu, very similar to, you have a science, social, math, English, all at certain level. Yeah. That doesn't mean you're going to be a professor of English or you'll be like in the art section by taking social. The basics now, only one more basic has come in the the toddler age, that coding slightly if they put, and we don't know which career they'll take. That was a very, very, very like bullseye answer. That was a very bullseye answer. So really, actually, I wanted to hear that so that parents can understand that. And like how to build the foundation then, yeah. That means, Snehanshu, what could be the small step, or you call the baby steps, for any parent or any like education entrepreneur in their school, that what kind of things shall we put so that it gives a very strong and sustainable the foundation for the kids in this area?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, right? We should try and look at it as a way to create a strong foundation. I think those words are just the right words in my opinion. So how do you create the right foundation? One could, as a child matures and chooses to either build on that foundation or discard and create another foundation, is a choice best left to the child, right? But let us talk about it from a foundation perspective. And in my opinion, first of all, appreciating the fact that some of these fields that we're talking about, a career in machine learning or artificial intelligence, is a multidisciplinary field. Okay, so to be made aware of the fact that there is a lot of layering, there's a lot of learning that is involved. The appreciation is extremely important. I think I will rate that as the first big thing. Realization that these fields are multidisciplinary in nature, and a lot of components need to come together to create a finished you, to create a polished you, to make you sort of job ready, etc. That is number one. Two is, let it begin not so much from a perspective of learning to code well, but in my 21 years of experience, and I've spent a lot of that time in the machine learning area, I know it starts off with understanding data. The good thing is data handling is a topic introduced in classes. My daughter, who studies in class 6, has an entire book in data handling. Exactly. And I was just so surprised to see that. And that is the right thought. While she has not started coding that way, but the point is, if you understand the distribution or the organization of data and then place data on top, that is the right learning path for you. So I think understanding of data is very, very important. Second is when you try and create a focus around one language. So whether it is C or C++, whether it is Java, even Java continues to be quite relevant. To talk about Python or R from a machine learning perspective, or even SQL from a data perspective. Pick up one thing and then try and be good at it. Because any language that you pick up, you will get a sense of whether you are a natural or whether you are able to create those incremental learnings for yourself or not. So that is point number 3 that I would mention. Point number 4 is the whole thought of experimenting without any fear of failure, right? This whole knack of wanting to do something mischievous with a piece of code. Mischievous, obviously, code is all about manipulating. It's all about manipulation. It is not about, if I do this, I'm told this will happen. But what if I do something else with it? That amount of mischievousness, right, needs to creep into the mind of a programmer to try and expand his own learning basis. So experimentation without removing the fear of failure, that would be very important. And then you see where it leads you. You allow certain things to play out rather than trying to templatize it a little too much. I think that is the final one. You just leave it there and then see where it takes you. If you like the new destination you've arrived at, then there is an inherent motivation. And then you just need to support the child. He has already found his mojo. So I would say those 4 or 5 things, Iswan.
Here, when you say this, that let us put this in a very small age, and let us see how the growth is happening slowly. Like you even talked about your daughter talking about data handling. Yes, even I have seen is one of the best things. Never we thought when we were kids that data handling can be this much big, and there can be big data analysis kind of courses can come. I still remember when I started with the machine learning, when I was introduced to ML in the year 2015 by some of my old students. So only because they come across a probability question and they were not able to crack it, then they remember their teacher. So they said, sir, I'm not able to understand this. Can you tell me how it is? Then that was the first time I got introduced to ML, that too from States. So India, it took time to come. So I understand. But here, one more question arises that we all know that AI is there. There is something called NI that we call as natural intelligence. That means the intelligence that should have to build a career. So what do you feel that what can be the prerequisites in terms of NI when you want to build a career in AI? What actually should be?
Okay. A lot of natural intelligence is needed for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence stems out of our own ability to conceptualize a world which is abstract and yet relevant. What are some of the specific traits? I think let me talk about a few, right? These would necessarily, in my opinion, stem out of the fact that while technical skills are critical, you would also need certain human skills.
Exactly.
Correct? And things that may not necessarily be the right set of focus areas for an algorithm, which is where the machine-human combination comes to work. Whether you talk about this whole aspect of communication, whether you talk about storytelling, you talk about collaboration, you talk about the whole aspect of want to do continuous learning and improvement, right? Bringing in a research mindset, even aspects such as design thinking. very, very human qualities. Communication is quite often underrated in the programming or coding world, but it is supremely important. It's more important than ever before. Now, there are emerging focus areas such as how do you create responsible artificial intelligence, responsible AI? Who brings in that sense of ethics and responsibility? It is us, right? So when you talk about artificial intelligence in schools, I think there is a need for us to also teach the kids about the other aspects of what goes into the making of responsible artificial intelligence. So if there is one thing that I would request all of you guys from the academic fraternity is not just teach your kids, your pupils, the children that study at your schools, artificial intelligence, teach them responsible artificial intelligence, right? And that is humanizing AI back again for our own benefit.
Like that's like you like that actually brings me like the thoughts of any new thing that is being developed in the technological place. The seed is put at school level. We all understand that. So my actually next question was that which you are actually talking to the teachers, that what role you feel that teachers or like the academicians, school principals, in fact the first teacher, parent, right? While introducing the new age technologies, without disturbing the core curriculum. That means there is a core curriculum, so we should not disturb that. But we want to introduce the new age technologies to them. So what role you feel that the teacher, parent, and the school academicians, principal, and centrist should follow? Any insight from your side?
I think in some ways I answered that question a little while back, but just to summarize my answer from a while back. Look, coding probably is a new maths. That's the way I look at it. But there's an important sort of statement here. Coding is a new maths, but everyone need not learn it. Okay? The fundamental support to your question that schools, parents, etc. would need to provide is to really understand whether the pupil has a knack for it, and then you try and nurture that interest. Today, there are so many powerful ways. If you're especially city-bred kid, there are plenty of learning avenues today. There are good online classes. There is infrastructure support. There are sandboxes that have been created which allow for that experimentation to happen. Enough people who want to volunteer, enough mentors that you find around. So that is not so much of a problem, especially if you're in cities. The basic service that the teachers or the parents would probably want to do is to understand that you are not driving your kids to the path of learning to code because there's a greater career prospect by the end of it. Nothing wrong with thinking that way, but let that pressure not come onto a kid that early. There's nothing wrong in aspiring for your kid to be an AI engineer. This is a great aspiration, and I wish all the parents all the success, as far as the kids are concerned. But introduce it as a way for them to expand their learning horizons and in trying to understand the digital world better, in trying to pick up a skill that helps them problem solve better and create that algorithmic way of thinking. Those are the learning incentives that parents should provide to their kids, right? Rather than a career goal. Do not set for them the career goals at this stage. So I think that is as categorical and as emphatic that I can be in this forum on the topic.
Yeah, Snehanshu, like many of the the good things you talked about, and even very subtle way you place coding in the lives by asking the parent or us and the community not to put it as a career path, but as one of the necessity that it should be there, because future, like the entire things will be changing in technology. You need not take a career out of it, but learning, nothing wrong, and that will be very beneficial in any other field in future. But like, do you feel that out of all these good things, any challenge, or like one of your biggest challenge you feel, because in that field, sitting at that post and sitting at that particular place, what challenge you feel that in implementation will have in schools? If at all you want to implement these learnings in schools, so what is the biggest challenge you feel? One biggest challenge you feel that should be there, because you said enough mentors are there.
What we need to understand is the goal that we are working towards. What is the end goal? Is the end goal leading you to a state where students have probably developed some certain capabilities which are relevant capabilities for the real world? I think that's a reasonable goal to chase, some real world capabilities by the time they leave the school. And then for that to happen, I feel the broader application of AI has to be understood by them. So I look at that stage in a phased manner.
Okay.
It starts off with awareness. There's the first A in some ways, right? The awareness of what lies, what are the possibilities, what are the challenges, what are the learning toolkits that I have, right? That is the awareness part. I think that awareness at times creates a subset of what I call ability, which is the capability development part. And then that would hopefully lead to, that being entrenched and adopted, followed by the whole point around acceleration of the learning process, right? This happens in a phased manner. What is the challenge? There's a question that you asked me. I think the challenge could be rushing it through. Challenge is wanting to do something without fully knowing where that path is leading you. Trying to get into a career mindset even before you have fully appreciated the discipline. But there's one more. That is around the whole need for a certain kind of infrastructure to be placed before the students where they can experiment, right? In our times and back in the days when we were kids, we used to have this physics labs and chemistry labs and biology labs.
Exactly.
Now the time is probably coming where we need to develop AI labs also. And then how many schools today can set up an AI lab for their students? Not so much because somebody wants to be an engineer, but just to really understand that subject very closely as far as possible. That's important. I feel that setting up of those labs within schools is going to be a difficult one for a country like ours. We are still fairly resource constrained, and this thought is a little new. But the faster we move in that direction, the more traction we will get from a capability development perspective. I think that the infrastructure could be another challenge that I can think of, Isra. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah. And really very beautifully you answered the 3 A's: awareness, adoption, and acceleration. So that is the steps in any of the new introduction if you have in any kind of school and curriculum. But like here, suppose just to my own experience, just now when I started this like particular session in the beginning, for 2 or 3 minutes, internet went off. So that too, sitting in Hyderabad and feeling the internet problem is like a very ironic situation. So, access to such technologies in remote 3-tier, 4-tier, or sometimes 2-tier cities. When this is the case, how like a student or a candidate who is living in that remote and far off areas, and he want to beat the student from the mainstream city, like you are sitting in Bangalore or Delhi or Hyderabad or Mumbai. So like, how do you feel that like how they can remain competitive. So what can be done? Because you say coding is important, or even AI is important. So in 3-tier, 4-tier towns, how will they remain competitive? Don't you feel there'll be again a gap will be created between student urban and student rural?
Yes, there will be, and there is no sort of polite way of saying this. Look, the point being that today with the internet penetration, and I think the penetration in India is only growing, and this is great news, which means people have access to certain resources which are available online, which takes them on a path to towards self-learning, correct? Now, as much as that is important, this is a fairly new area which requires the guidance and mentorship of specialists who can handhold, who can show the way, etc. And to that extent, I feel that the learning process will be slightly hampered. There is only so much that online education can provide you. If you want to get real, then you will need to have a certain interaction with people who know that place, who can answer the questions, who can tell you, what to focus deeper on, who will tell you how to accelerate your learning process. But there is another one, which is the computing resources in some of these smaller towns that we are talking about. And just coming back to the whole AI labs point, that the computing infrastructure is not the strongest in our country, these smaller places. I know there are, this is on the radar of a lot of state governments and central government also. I work very closely with the state of Telangana, so I know they are very passionate about this part. But yes, I do not have any other way than to say that there will be a gap.
That was, yes, I understand it, because the way like the coding and AI is going in the entire India, and the way it's not India, because we are in India, we are feeling that, in fact, the whole world. And like almost many of the students will miss the bus, because like maybe because of their place, demographic, where they are actually living on, or the non-availability of the resources. So like rightly you said that the people who have the access to these things, if they don't take the early advantage, see, again, like the pressure comes that I want to learn coding. Yeah, because it is the thing that is going to make a big difference in their field. And from this conversation, Snehanshu, what I understand, that coding is here to stay, not as a career. Career will be there, but as a basic thing, the way you said, beautifully scripted, that it is one more way of learning mathematics where each and everyone need not learn. So that is one. Second is what I understood, and I would really appreciate the way you put that. Even if you are not thinking about a career in coding or AI, still if you learn it, it is always a way to understand that how things are done, which will be important for every kid to have like as a choice of a career at the later stage. Third and foremost thing, what it was that it is more or less like a basic skill. It is not like something you are making career of, because sometimes the hype is, now certain institutes are there, they are teaching coding to 5-year-old kid, what they are going to do. It is same as we are teaching them ABCD. The same way we are teaching them coding. Obviously, we are not in programming level, some basic level in which they should be taught. And obvious, there is a way to go. And the way to change all of this, if at all it has to be get implemented in our or in the institute level, is first there should be awareness created. Proper awareness should be there that what kind of coding it is, why we are actually learning the coding. Second is it should be adopted properly. It is not like just because somebody is coming and we are starting it without any plan. And third is obvious, there should be some progress, there should be some acceleration. The 3 A's are so important. Rushing is not going to help us out at any point of time. So, Snehanshu, really, it was a pleasure talking to you. I don't know how this 45 minutes have gone, but I have learned a lot personally. If like the parents are there, students are there, I understand it. Being in the industry, I thought that this is what the way ahead for all of us to go. And thank you very much for spending this peaceful holiday time.
If there are any questions, one or two, I can probably try and take.
Yeah. I was just about to open that.
The audience has any questions for us?
Yeah, Vamsi sir, can you please moderate this? Anyone who can actually answer, please let us know. Snehanshu sir is there; he can answer your question.
Just don't ask me whether you should take an elective in AI. I cannot advise on those choices. Those are,
there is like Snehanshu, there is a question to you from Teja. He's saying, sir, won't AI affect human working? If affects, how to mold then AI to not affect it?
No, okay, well, AI has been designed for us. So how can it not affect the way we work? It has been designed to influence our working. It has been designed to make us more productive and efficient. So if it has been designed to not help us, then it is not doing its job. I think we need to give up this fear of when we think of artificial intelligence, robots sort of taking over the world, etc. I think that's a little kind of dystopian, in my opinion. We will have to learn to work with AI, and the AI has to be designed around us. That is the whole concept of responsible AI that I was talking about. So,
Teja, what like Snehanshu is telling, that you'll have more bumblebees, you have less Megatrons. So please understand it. Bumblebee is there to help us. Megatron is there to destroy. So AI will help us out. So it is meant for that. Yeah, Snehanshu, please go ahead. I between intervene.
Yeah. I mean, that was the answer.
So like one more question is there from like Sravya Lakshmi to you. That what's the best platform to learn AI? What's the best platform? Here, the like what like age they didn't tell, but still in like general, what is the best platform?
There are so many. If you're talking about, I don't know, cloud platforms, if you're talking about learning platforms, there are so many, and it is really left to our choices to what are the kind of learning outcomes that I want to produce for myself, how much money am I willing to spend, how much time am I willing to spend, etc. So the good thing is that these platforms that we are talking about are only improving with time. Please feel free to pick up any that kind of aligns with your learning objectives, right?
So I think, Shavya, that answers. That means any of the online courses that are available, you just go through the course curriculum.
I think it is more than an online course. Please, I think the students here will need to understand that getting over a module in Coursera or edX or Upgrad does not make you a qualified person in that area. It's just one way to create a small amount of learning for our own selves, right? Real skill building happens when you work with data, when you create those models and it solves a real world problem. When you are able to solve a real world problem is when you think you are being relevant, you are readying yourself for a career. But online courses sort of are not complete by themselves. It requires years and years and decades of learning for you to ready yourself, professionally. Just keep that at the back of the mind. Don't be daunted by the prospect. You very well can, understand the intricacies, nuances. Each one of you has a lot of ability, but just put things in perspective. When you take up an online course, and I keep hearing this a lot, shall I take this online course or that online course? See what it has to offer and how much it helps you develop a certain skill. And online learning is just one way of somebody to come onto a screen, speak a few lines, and go away. What then needs to be done is for that learning to be implemented, to be practiced. Unless you do that, you're not picking up a skill as much. You will sooner than later forget what was taught in the class.
Yeah, I think it is from my side some slight disturbances there. So one more question was there here. I like quickly go through Snehanshu. Like one Mr. Pratik, he said, "Sir, which college is the best for AI in India at UG level? And a complete BTech in AI is best or CSE with specialization? IIT Hyderabad has introduced BTech in AI. Is it the best to join or to study abroad?"
The India versus abroad story will always be there. I think there's a difference in learning pedagogy. At times when you go outside, the focus is a little more on the research, and the way you learn is a lot more sort of hands-on in many ways, right? But there are very good courses available in India as well. You listed out IIT Hyderabad. The course that they are offering, I think, is a very strong one, correct? And then likewise with IIM Calcutta does a post graduation, I think, in business analytics and artificial intelligence. That's of very high quality. Your choice. How much time, how much money you have. I think India is catching up, but there are certain foreign universities that offer a different kind of learning experience, which is at times significantly better. I cannot comment on which course is better than something else. That is not my profession, really. I cannot be your guide.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. I continue to see certain questions come up. Can you hear me?
Let's check from my side 1 second. Yeah. So that actually answers the next question also, that whether shall I go for India or shall I go for abroad. One more question has come from like Mr. Golakaram Srinivas Rao. Like what are the major sectors in which we are going to use AI in future?
Yes, that's a great question. Look, the applications of artificial intelligence is being seen in a number of sectors. And very recently I was told that they discovered a planet by the help of artificial intelligence, right? So just talk about any field and people are figuring out ways to utilize the data. But the ones that are leading the chart, in my opinion, are agriculture, healthcare, education, retail, BFSI. I think these 5, and then manufacturing. I think these 6 are seeing a lot of action.
Almost like 70% of industry.
Yeah, some good work is happening in these areas.
And like one more question is there from Mr. Puneet, that how does AI impact on employment and the workforce?
Good question. The jury is still out, Puneet. I think one thing that I can tell for sure is that there is going to be a displacement effect that AI will create. It is already being seen in some ways, but it will make certain jobs obsolete and it will create some new ones. And I don't know, Puneet, if you have seen this whole talk by Kai-Fu Lee. Kai-Fu Lee is a visionary, is a billionaire tech investor, is a computer scientist, and he's a man of repute, right? He has this very interesting way of describing this phenomenon. He says that our jobs, the jobs that we currently do in today's age, can be distributed basis whether they can be optimized or whether they have a creative or strategic element to it. So you start off with jobs that are repetitive, then they are routine, or those that can be optimized, those that are complex, or at the other extreme that are creative. The theory, Puneet, is that increasingly The jobs that are repetitive, routine, or can be optimized will be taken over by artificial intelligence, right? And jobs that are complex and creative will continue to require human intervention and attention.
Yeah, they put in mute. Fine. Yeah, I understand. Like here, like one more small, very similar question is there. That most of the jobs will be done by machine and bots. Then like the question is, one second. Yeah, which will lead to unemployment.
Yeah, so I was about to address that. I heard a little bit of a noise in the background, so I stopped speaking.
Yeah.
So the point that I was making is that there will be a displacement effect. Certain jobs will be rendered, I won't say obsolete, but they will be taken over by bots that can do it more efficiently. But newer jobs and job streams will emerge. Some of them we know, for example, this whole discussion around ML engineers, AI engineers. These are emerging fields, and they will continue to employ a significant population. And there would be jobs of the future, some of which we don't even know. so we cannot comment. Whether there will be a net incremental or not is the big question, which means that the number of jobs created by AI has to be greater than the number of jobs it overtakes. And then that is where this fear will die down. Right now, there are different verdicts on this, whether that net incremental will be positive or negative.
Mm-hmm. Like here, one more, like V. Kranti Reddy, who has asked that, what is the difference between AI and ML? But rightly you said that there will be AI, ML is applicable everywhere. So it comes that what is the difference between AI and ML, and how does AI impact on application development?
Look, AI and ML, I would need to do a separate session on. Happy to do it if time allows. We are at the fag end of the discussion. I think it would require a separate session, something that I'm passionate about talking. Time permitting, we can do a separate one on this.
Sure.
How does AI impact application development? I'm not sure I understood that question fully, to be very honest.
Exactly.
Iswaran, did you understand how does AI impact?
Like which kind of application that they are talking about? Any app development, or they are talking about? I think application is app development. This is what I'm thinking.
That I understand. How does AI? Sorry, I didn't understand. If you can give me one more.
Sure. And like one more question is there, very crazy question from Mr. Pratik Rao. Said that, can AI really predict stock market?
Can AI predict stock market?
He's like bang on. He's bang on. Directly give me the answer, I'll go.
Great question. That's a great question. I think there have been attempts in the past. There will continue to be attempts in future. Nobody has tamed it. If that was the case, that would probably be the costliest software available. A stock market is guided by a whole host of macroeconomic factors, sentiments of investors, right? And working ways of stock markets that cannot be fully codified. Can there be a model to replicate or mimic that decision-making process? We haven't found a lot of success. In some cases, yes, but not on a continuous basis, I would say. So it is still work in progress, sir. That is what I would say. It's still work in progress.
So that I think like Pratik, that gives the answer that the work is in progress. You please wait. They're like definitely.
Get into it. Why to wait? The best way to
get into do it
is to create it. So if you want to get into it, you're absolutely welcome.
That's good. So any other questions from any of them? They didn't come to me privately. So fine. I think that's like, we got too much of time, almost like 11. So one like good hour we have spent, and really good question from all the like people who have participated. That too, the stock market was like an entire killer in the last nail. So thank you, Snehanshu. Thank you very much for joining us on a holiday where actually people love to crash on the bed for a long time. and really will try to loop you in if in like future any of the ML session comes, and would be great if you join us again.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your time. Great to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.